I'm going to be blunt. If you're even whispering the idea of robbing a bank, stop and listen. This video isn't a how-to. It's the exact opposite, a raw, unfiltered confession from someone who thought they could get away with it and paid a price that didn't stop at prison bars. Subscribe now if you want real stories that save lives, not cheap thrills. I was 26 the first time I walked into a bank with the idea lodged in my head like a splinter. I didn't grow up wanting to be a criminal. I grew up wanting to be seen. Bills were stacked against our door. My little sister was coughing in a room that needed a doctor. And the jobs I could find paid like jokes. That story will sound familiar to a lot of people. It sounded like justification to me. It sounded like a plan. Plans are dangerous things because they trick you into believing there's control. The truth is, control is an illusion. You think you'll leave unharmed, that you'll be smarter than surveillance, luckier than the cameras, faster than the alarms, and kinder than the people behind the counters. You are not smarter than the systems you break. You are not kinder than the fear you create. Let me tell you what you must know, not the details of how to pull something off, but the realities that will follow you like a shadow the size of a nation. First, the math of consequences is not like the movies. You imagine one clean score, cash stuffed into a bag, a life reset. In reality, the money becomes a hot coal you can't hold. Law enforcement takes every robbery personally. Banks are not just businesses, they are fortified nodes in an infrastructure that governments will defend relentlessly. When you cross that line, you invite resources, investigators, federal agents, forensic teams, surveillance reviews, and a legal machine that eats mistakes and spits out life sentences. Even small thefts get federal attention if you cross the wrong thresholds or use the wrong means. The quick fix becomes a decade or more, measured in lost meals, missed birthdays, and a permanent mark on your record. Second, the human cost is brutal. When you step into a bank threatening the staff or customers, even if you hope to only frighten them, fear has a memory. People in those rooms freeze in trauma. Tellers, security officers, innocent customers, and children carry those moments for the rest of their lives. I met a woman in the visiting room whose brother spent years trying to sleep after a robbery he witnessed at age 10. I met a teller who couldn't re-enter a bank after the robbery that ruined her career. The violence you accept in theory becomes real pain in other people's lives. That's not guilt from getting caught. It's knowing that you catalyzed a lifetime of fear for strangers who had done you no harm. Third, the logistics you think you can cheat, technology will not let you. Surveillance is everywhere, not just visible cameras, but time-stamped transaction logs, digital trails, license plate readers, and footage shared across networks. Investigators stitch together hours of footage to build timelines. They cross-reference the simplest details, clothing, shoes, vehicle movements, and phone pings. And when a trail runs cold, they don't stop. They go back, they reanalyze, and they find patterns you thought were buried. You might imagine a single vulnerability, but modern investigations exploit redundancy. The systems banks use are built to be resilient. They're boring, slow, and relentless. That's the worst kind of enemy. Fifth, the moral and psychological toll is corrosive. You don't become heroic by crossing a legal line. You become a person who survives small betrayals to survive another hour. You wake up to nights where you replay faces, voices, and the sound of doors closing on safety. You start calculating escape routes, forever balancing your life against risk like somebody living inside a metronome. I found that the thing that corroded me wasn't prison. It was the erosion of self. I no longer trusted my own reflection. I would wake at 4 a.m. sweating, recalculating the worst choices, wondering which life I had stolen from someone else and which life I had abandoned. Fifth, prison is not the final act. It's a long prologue to a new kind of struggle. People romanticize doing your time like it's a box you check. The truth is far meaner. A criminal record is a scar. Employers read it, landlords read it. Banks, the same institutions you stole from, won't loan to you, won't hire you for jobs that matter. Your family pays a price, visits that cost money and time, children who grow up with an absence they can't explain, a mother who learns to be brave every time the phone rings. I lost relationships that no apology could repair. Rebuilding a life is not about willpower alone. It requires patience, money, therapy, and a world that lets you back in. Too often, society slams the door once you get out. But let me tell you about the night that broke me. I thought I was clever. I thought I was different. I thought the score would change everything. It didn't. A man I grew up with, call him Ray, thought the same. We convinced each other of odds and timing. The job went sideways, not because of some cinematic shootout, but because of small human errors. A witness who noticed a license plate, a clerk who changed her lunch break and saw the same car twice, a GPS ping nobody expected. Within 48 hours, the net closed. Ray was the first to go down. I tried to run, to hide, to call people I trusted. People I once called family let me go. The betrayal was sharpest at dawn, when the reality of choices settled like concrete over my chest. I was arrested, tried, and convicted. In court, the stories people told, the teller's hands trembling, the faces of frightened customers were the things I couldn't argue against. The law did its job. The judge read the sentence, and it felt like the world folded in on itself. But the punishment extended past the sentence. It was the mailboxes that no one checked, the birthdays missed, the phone calls you forgot to make because you were avoiding shame. Years later, I still get letters from parents who lost a child in violence that flowed out of the same choices I made. They write to find closure. Mostly, they write to warn. There's an ugly truth I learned the hard way. Crime is not a solitary sin. It ripples. It reaches into neighborhoods, into churches, into PTA meetings and barbecues. The person who does the robberies sits in an awkward moral center with the people who clean toilets and the people who sell sneakers on the corner. If you think robbing a bank is a shortcut, remember this. It's a grenade tossed into a community. The blast doesn't stop at your hands. If any part of you still believes you can outsmart the system, then listen to another reality. When the chips are down, people fold in ways you don't expect. Friends cooperate with authorities. Cameras get reviewed frame by frame. Forensics take what you throw away and make it speak. Phones and metadata become non-fiction books in investigators' hands. You might be able to run physically. You cannot run from the traces you leave. So what's the point of this confession? I won't dress it up. I want to scare you away from a life of crime. I say scare because that's the emotion that worked on me. Not shame, not lecturing, fear of a future spent repeating the same tragedies. I want to be the voice that says, don't make my mistakes. The stolen money isn't worth the years and the people you destroy to get it. There are stories of redemption. I know men who left criminal circles, did the tedious daily work of rebuilding, and now teach kids not to take their path. They volunteer at centers, they get degrees, they find small peace and honest hours. But those stories started with the choice to seek help, to risk humility, and to take a slow road. That's what I wish I had done before I ever listened to the idea of robbing a bank. If you're at that intersection, desperate, hurt, considering a line you think will fix everything, reach out. Look up local charities, workforce training, legal aid, or a community leader who can point you to real help. This life you imagine as a fast track is a trap. The results are slow, painful, and permanent. I'm not here to moralize. I'm here to tell the truth I learned the hardest way possible. Crime steals more than money. It steals time, dignity, and the quiet possibility of a different life. If you want stories that help you choose a better path, subscribe. Share this with someone who's on the edge. If my confession stops even one person from stepping into a life they'll regret forever, then these words have done their work. Before you walk out of this video, remember, the streets do not forgive, they do not forget, they keep score.